Hi everybody and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be discussing Firefly guitars and 5 reasons why you should consider buying one and 3 reasons it may make you consider not buying one. And as you can see right off the bat, these are gorgeous guitars. If you're not familiar with Firefly, they're an inexpensive company. They make guitars averaging $200, anywhere from $150 to $250, but the average is around $2. And they have some of the coolest guitars for the money. So let's go ahead and get into this. Okay, so this is first of all not a sponsored video. I just wanted to talk about Firefly guitars. So, at $150 to $250, these are not expensive guitars, and you do have to be reasonable with your expectations. So, let's quickly go over some of that. Your finishes. These are beautiful finishes. However, they're not going to be nearly as thick as the $1,000 guitar. They won't take impacts as well, and you might see some minor imperfections, but you'll see that on some higher priced guitars, $500, $600. Occasionally you might see something really bad which you would need a return for, but for the most part, that's the big thing with the finishes, is they're just going to be thinner like most inexpensive guitars. Now the hardware, pickups, that's something on all inexpensive guitars aren't as good as higher end, although this stuff's pretty good. These tuners, they work well. They're not real jumpy or anything like the cheap tuners you get on a Squire Bullet. The pickups, some of the old ones, from what I understand, were pretty microphonic. They seem to have fixed that for the most part. And I've been very happy with these pickups, whether they're covered or uncovered. They sound really good. They are ceramic. They're using full-size pots, so you can't really complain there. But the bridge and the tuners, they're like Squire quality. But they work just fine. And for this price point, you can't complain. So let's go ahead and get into, now that we've covered the reasonable expectations, you're not going to have the most high-end stuff. But let's go over some of the great stuff about these. So, reason number 1, the wood choices. Mahogany bodies, mahogany neck, a rosewood fretboard. Those are tried and true classics for tone, for stability. You can't go wrong with that combination. So, gotta love that. Okay, now number 2 is the nut. Everything I've seen from them has a bone nut. They're cut very well. And bone nuts, that's something you see on higher end guitars usually. You're not going to find that on a $200 guitar. That's really helps with your tuning stability. Fantastic to see on a guitar in this price range. Okay, number 3 are set necks and the neck finish. The fact that you can get a set neck guitar in this price point is just fabulous, and the finishes are extremely smooth. I'm actually not a big fan of painted and polished necks, but these have been great. I've owned some in the past. I've had Fenders, I've had Gibsons, and not that they were bad with the polished necks or the gloss necks, but these are just really smooth and fast, so I give them credit there. Okay, number 4, the variety of finishes and body types. This is one of their prettier finishes right here in my opinion, but they have all kinds of flame maple, quilt maple, metallic, solid color, and you have all kinds of guitar types. Everything that resembles a PRS, things that resemble Les Pauls, SGs, Strats, Tellys, Flying Vs, and more. So they really have a great selection of styles and a great variety of finishes for guitars in this price range in particular. Okay, number 5 is the factory setup. Especially at this price point, they come with nice low action. The intonation's usually pretty much spot on. These guitars are ready to play out of the box. I've had no real issues. Like I said, you might have a one-off here and there, but for the most part, they're great out of the box. And I'm not saying there haven't been some issues with these, which we'll cover in a moment. But like with any inexpensive guitar, you can have an issue. You can have a loose tone pot. You can have a high fret. All stuff that you can send them back if you need to, or for someone like me, then you can just repair them. Take care of the issue yourself. But that can happen with any guitar in a lower price range, and really you can have a one-off even at $3,000. But yeah, their necks, and including the fretwork, because that's something I think everyone knows about Firefly, which is why it's not in this top 5. But everyone knows they've got really nice fretwork, especially for this price range. That's one of the things you'll hear on every review, is the frets just feel really good on one of these guitars. But I hadn't heard anyone talk about the neck finish and the set neck, and they really are smooth. These are great necks. I can't say enough good about it. Okay, let's talk about some issues you might have if you buy a Firefly. And I don't mean the stuff that could be common with any lower end guitar. Like I said, you know what to expect from electronics. There are possible finish issues or binding issues, stuff like that. But those are, again, not something you're going to see all the time, and they are common for low end guitars. Let's talk about some stuff specific to Firefly. Now this is not a huge issue for me, but for some of you guys this might be a deal breaker. The fretboard is about a 15.75, 16-inch radius. Very flat like an Ibanez. A lot of people don't want it that flat. So something to be very aware of when you're buying this guitar. It does have a very flat fretboard. Now, number two are the pickups. While you can change the pickups, and these are definitely not bad, they are very high output ceramic and really got a rock aggressive sound to them. May not be the right pickup for everybody. However, they do dial in pretty nice on clean stuff and for mellow blues, but you just might want something less abrasive, so that could be another issue. And that's been across the board what I've seen, at least with the humbuckers, are these high output ceramics. And the third biggest issue, at least for me, is the lack of maple fretboard options. They just don't have them, guys. So if you're someone who just really only wants to play on maple, Firefly is not going to have you covered in that regard, which is a shame because they do have left-handed instruments out there. So the fact they haven't added some maple is surprising. I would probably expect to see it in the future. These guys have been good at progressing as they move along. So overall, I've got to say, while any guitar can be imperfect, and under at least $400, you're going to find some small issues with most guitars, whether it's a speck in the paint, needing a minor setup adjustment. It's going to happen. So be realistic when you're buying inexpensive guitars. I don't care if it's a Squier, a Jackson, an Epiphone, Ibanez, Firefly, Glary. It doesn't matter. Be realistic with your expectations, and then understand, like I said, the benefits and the issues with each of these brands that you're looking into. And with Firefly, there's a lot to love here. And if you're a modder, if you love to upgrade and just looking for a good bass, these are extremely great. I mean, with a mahogany body, it may be a thin maple veneer or cap, but it's still gorgeous. But with the solid set neck and just the great fretwork, the bone nut, these are great platforms to build on. I mean, you can throw in some tuners, a new tremolo, some new electronics, and you've got a much higher end guitar all of a sudden. So these are really great for that as well. But even if you don't ever want to work on the guitar, now granted, any guitar is going to need a setup, year to year. You're going to need to tweak your truss rods. You're going to need to maybe tweak your bridge saddles now and then. There's things you're going to need to do to your guitar to keep it playing right. But outside of that, if you don't ever want to have to work on your guitar, especially when you first buy it, these are a good option. I have not had to do a setup on any of these. I have done a setup on this one because I changed it from 10s to 9s. But before that, I wasn't going to do a setup on it. So I highly recommend these guitars. I think Firefly makes a fabulous, inexpensive guitar, especially if you want one that's a little better looking, a little more options in the style. Then Firefly is definitely something you should look at. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like this kind of content, please click like and subscribe. Click the bell icon to stay notified. Leave me some comments and suggestions. I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, keep playing.